The NFL draft is upon us. What are we? Less than 2 weeks away from the draft starting. We're predicting landing spots for fantasy relevant players where either we think they're going to go or where we would realistically like to see them fall. Dad, are you ready for the draft? Less than 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I think
Thursday.
12 days, 11 days, 12 days, somewhere in there. Man, it's, for people like us who have been looking at these guys, since right after the Super Bowl and all that, man, I am so ready to, I'm just so tired of hearing all the all the mock drafts and stuff like that. And I'm sure the people who do these things are about tired of it too. It's like, let's get on with it. And, you know, um, I'm hoping if there's going to be any big movement, you know, um, in draft positions, like the Vikings jumping up or something like that. Somebody's going to move up to get a certain guy, and it's going to happen soon. I mean, next week or the week before, or are they going to wait till draft day? But yeah, let's get on with it. So let's get the NFL draft gone. We can start thinking about our dynasty rookie drafts and.
Yeah, it does. It's funny. It's getting hyped up. Like all these moves are going to be made. I remember that was the same like a couple years ago, and it was kind of like it was a little bit disappointing of a first round. So, gotta be careful how much we hype it up. But I hope it is a good, exciting draft. So yeah, we're talking about some of the prospects across the 4 fantasy positions: QB, running back, wide receiver, tight end. And we're going to start off with the quarterbacks. We're not going to talk about Caleb because we know he's going to the Bears. And we're not even going to talk about Jaden Daniels because I don't think he's going to get out of either the second or third spot, whether that's Washington or the Patriots or maybe a team trades up. But I think I'd be surprised if he does. But these other guys, we'll see. We're going to start with Drake May, kind of the consensus QB3, and that's, I think, changing a little bit. It's no longer a consensus. You still see mocks and he's, the third or second quarterback taken. Got any chance he doesn't get taken in the top 3? And where do you think he's going to go?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think, I have heard some weird things. It's New England at number 3. And of course I need a quarterback. Are they going to be rolling with, Brissett? And I've heard of trade out of number 3, get a bunch of draft picks, suck for another year, and then get ready for next year. And I'm thinking, like, who does that? What NFL team? It's like that's a ridiculous idea if you ask me. But Drake May is probably the guy I know the least about, and I have all these ups and downs about him. I've watched some more video, and you see some really cool things, and then you see a couple of like, that was kind of stupid. But if he ends up New England, I mean, that seems like the best spot, hopefully. But that team seems not very well prepared for a rookie quarterback. So I don't know. I mean, we're talking offensive weapons and stuff. So
yeah, and I agree with the Drake May analysis. Like, it's just he has all the tools you need for a quarterback, and then there's these head scratchers. What are you doing? Plays and I if he does go to New England, I think everyone's like hates it, and we've talked about this before. Remember, everyone hated CJ Stroud to the Texans. And look how that turned out. Sometimes if you're just a really good quarterback, it doesn't really matter where you go, So no one expected anything. He went to the Texans. They had no weapons. Nico Collins wasn't a thing. Tank Dell was a 3rd-round pick, right? Noah Brown and Robert Wood. We were expecting Robert Woods as the wide receiver 1, So
right.
It doesn't
Yeah, there was a lot of naysayers about Stroud and stuff like that. So, yeah, and Bryce Young was so smart. He could process the information really quick. And, yeah, so much for all that junk. So
Yeah. If Drake May doesn't go top 5, I don't see him getting past the Giants at 6. So I just don't see that happening. And I don't necessarily think he has to start from, even if he goes to New England, maybe Brissett is the starter to start the year, and that's fine. So that's kind of where I'm at with Drake May. McCarthy is a little bit interesting. We've seen as high as like the 102, as low as, he's going to be a first rounder. I would be very surprised if he's not a top 12 pick. Where do you want to see him, Dad? Because I have a couple.
I want the Vikings to move up. You know, they got 2 first-round picks, 11 and 23. I want the Vikings. I think Kevin O'Connell is the coach, you know, who could develop McCarthy. They got Sam Darnold there. They can, you know, start off playing him. I know McCarthy is young, and of course, you know, you hear all the negative stuff about, well, he didn't have to throw that much, and, you know, this, that, and the other. But I think J.J. McCarthy to the Vikings at pick number 4 or 5. So, you know, I have a hard time seeing the Cardinals moving off of Marvin Harrison. That to me, that would be ridiculous. But
I mean, their GM.
Huh?
No, go ahead.
No, I hope, you know, I hope J.J. McCarthy ends up with the Vikings.
Yeah, I would love that. The Cardinals GM was it Monty Austin-Ford. He likes to trade, and if you can get a haul, you know, I think that rumored they want like 3 first-round picks. If someone offers them 3 first-round picks to move up to number 4, how do you pass that up? Yeah, like
I guess you know, they've had to analyze Adunze and Neighbors, you know, to see if they moved off of, if the Cardinals moved off of Marvin Harrison, let's say, you know, that they're not losing anything or losing much. But you know, I hear about Marvin Harrison. They're comparing him to Larry Fitzgerald, and I thought that was a pretty good comparison, and you know, not just as a person, you know, that and stuff like that. And and Larry was a third overall pick and stuff like that. So
yeah. Second all time in receiving yards. Yeah, I mean, Vikings are an amazing spot for any quarterback, and it'd be very interesting if JJ McCarthy, if it goes 1, 2, 3, 4 at quarterbacks to start the draft, and JJ McCarthy does go to the Vikings 4, you can make a case for him for being the second quarterback taken in rookie drafts, because he's going to come into even a better position. We talk about Caleb coming into the Bears with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. Freaking McCarthy would be thrown to Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. That's probably better, you know, like at this point.
Yeah,
so,
no kidding.
I'd say, you know, again, I'll throw the Giants out there as a potentially sneaky team. You know, I like Daboll and what he's done for Josh Allen, and kind of, you know, whether it was just more of Josh Allen or Daboll, I don't know, but I think he had a part in bringing Josh Allen into the quarterback he is now. He had you know, made the playoffs with Daniel Jones and made him look decent, more decent than he's ever looked before. So I think McCarthy maybe sits for a year. Giants aren't a terrible situation. They need weapons, but I don't think it's a terrible spot there for McCarthy.
I think financially they can move off of Daniel Jones a lot easier next year than they could this year. You know, they so yeah, that's a good thing. You know, there's, just think of the old musical chairs. You know, there's 6 or 7 teams that need a quarterback, kind of, and there's, you know, 4 or 5 of them. So somebody's going to be left holding the bag, you know, and there's not going to be a seat available. So it'll be interesting. That's why we're assuming, you know, it's going to be a wild first round, and you know, there's going to be trades and everything else. And and teams are going to have to overpay. So
Yeah.
if they need a quarterback.
Bo Nix, kind of the next QB5, and maybe it's between him and Penix, but we'll start with Bo Nix. I'm going to throw a sneaky one out there, and then no one's really talked about New Orleans at 14. I think there's a chance maybe they.
Wow.
I know it's tough. He would have to get past the Jets, the Vikings, and the Raiders, and the Broncos. All four of those teams could take a quarterback unless the Saints trade up. But Saints at 14, Bo Nix, he'll come in. Maybe he'll sit for, he will sit for a year behind Carr. And I think they're kind of locked into Carr for maybe a couple more years. But, even if Bo Nix sits for a year and a half and takes over, I don't think that's terrible for him. So Bo Nix to the Saints is my sneaky prediction.
Yeah, I have that's a good one. I think Denver.
Yeah.
And I heard, from I try to listen and read good sources when it comes to the draft because there's just so much crap out there, people don't know what they're doing. That I guess Bo Nix would fit what Sean Payton would like. Russell Wilson didn't fit because Russell Wilson likes to, I don't know, he kind of liked to ad lib a little bit, and he wasn't like drop back, fire the ball and stuff like that. It was like, run around and try and make the great play, like he did in Seattle and stuff like that. And Bo Nix would be, and they're kind of comparing him to Drew Brees a little bit, and it's like, I don't know, but I think it might. That's what I'm thinking. Denver Broncos.
Yeah, it seems to fit that system, the dink and dunk kind of system, and short passes, and that's what Nix did at Oregon. So, I think that's a good landing spot for a quarterback like McCarthy or Nix. Michael Penix, another interesting one. Is he a first rounder? Is he a second rounder? I don't really know. I'm just going to go with this assumption that I've seen more of, that he's a second round pick, and it's tough to know what's a good spot. Where do you think he could land potentially if he goes either late first or early second round? Where would you like to see him land?
I'm thinking I got two ideas, kind of. The Raiders or the Giants.
Yeah.
So
in the second, or Raiders in the first, maybe, or
I don't, and the Giants, if he's there, I think Penix should be a first rounder. I know, everybody's big concern about him is injuries. He's had all these injuries. Well, he played his last 2 years in college, at Washington. He wasn't injured, so sorry about that. But understand he was injured, and he had an ACL in each leg and shoulder and blah blah blah. But boy, that guy can throw the ball really pretty. He's it's really nice. So Raiders in the first round if they feel obligated, or maybe they're happy with Aiden O'Connell or something like that. Mm-hmm. But or the Giants in the second round. He gets in the second round, somebody's going to scoop him up and get a bargain, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't even think it's out of the realm of possibility that the Patriots at pick 34, not third overall, but 34, take him, and they just go with Marvin Harrison Jr., the best prospect in the draft, lock him up and say, hey, we have a couple guys we like in the later rounds, and Penix is one of them.
I can see this. If Penix is not taken in the first, let's say, 15 picks, I can start seeing teams wanting to move up into the 20s, and wanting to take them and stuff like that. So I heard a good story about kind of going back to the Vikings and how they got into this situation with Kirk Cousins, that they kind of got themselves in a little bit of a bind because they could have picked Hendon Hooker last year at a certain point, and they could have had a quarterback already, but they kind of goofed that up, and they were going to move off Kirk Cousins, and so here we are on that. But anyway, I don't want to get too far off base.
Yeah. Spencer Rattler, the other sneaky, I'm starting to like him more and more in this sneaky dynasty rookie pick, in your third round of your dynasty rookie drafts. I think he could be a third rounder in the NFL draft. I would love to see him go to a team like the Rams, with Stafford. Who knows how much longer we have with Stafford? Is it 1 more year? Is it 2 more years? Any team that's really good at developing a quarterback, and where we can see potentially Rattler taking over, if he is good, taking over in 2025. I don't think we're going to see much in 2024, but a team like the Rams to me seems like a dream spot for a guy like Spencer Rattler. Develop him for a year and then you take over. What do you think for Spencer Rattler, who's probably going to be a third rounder at best? Maybe he sneaks into the second round. Who knows?
Yeah, I was thinking of the Giants. I know I had mentioned the Giants for somebody else, but so that they could, and like I said, say Daniel Jones, you're the man this year, and Rattler sitting and stuff like that. So somebody,
that's fair.
Yeah, somebody who's probably got a quarterback.
Like the Jets are another one where, not that we'd love to see quarterbacks go to the Jets, but, they take him in the 72nd overall, and he sits for a year behind Rodgers and then takes over. It's possible.
Yes.
Yeah. But he's a guy. Pay attention to him for sure. Seattle is another team, maybe. Like, I know they got Sam Howell, but Seattle's another sneaky team that could take a quarterback in the second, third round. Who knows? Geno Smith basically has 1 more year to kind of prove he's the guy. So I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities either. So, and we'll see if any other quarterbacks do sneak into like day 2 draft capital, Michael Pratt or one of these other guys. So the running backs, you can kind of, because there's no clear cut number 1, to me, there's Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks, Corum is probably in there. We're only going to talk about those 3, but you can, if you can kind of plug in any running back, Raylan Allen, Bucky Irving, to a running back needy team, and we would like to see it, right? That's what's kind of tricky with running backs, is since there's no clear cut. But we'll start with Trey Benson. Is there anywhere for you, Dad, that you would really like to see Trey Benson go? Let's say he goes like somewhere in the second round, early, mid, or late second round.
I think the Buccaneers possibly, and I know everybody's going to say Rachaad White and stuff like that, but they need a second running back. Mm-hmm. And Brooks was not a heavy. He only had a handful of games where it was over 20 carries. Maybe it was only 1 or something. So he was not a high volume guy. So I was thinking maybe Tampa Bay, but I'm not sure if that's in. And I think to get Brooks, you might have to go second or early third or something. But I'm not sure if Tampa Bay's in that position. But that's kind of who I was thinking.
Yeah, for Trey Benson, by the way, not Brooks yet, but Benson.
Yeah. Trey Benson.
Bucks. No, it's fine. Brooks is the next guy we're talking about. For Bucks are 57th overall, second round. So that's an area where he could definitely go. I like maybe Carolina. They have the 33rd and 39th pick. I think that's it for the second round. Either one of those, I don't know if they're going to spend that early of it. Maybe they trade back like the 39 to the mid 40s and they grab them. Anyways, Carolina, I would really like because, you talked about Rachaad White, how good he was last year. Well, the head coach of the Bucks or the head coach of the Panthers was the offensive coordinator of the Bucks, and you get him to a team. I think he can be a workhorse running back. There's kind of an open spot there. I know you have Miles Sanders, but he was kind of a bust last year, and he was the last coach's regime. And Chuba Hubbard's there, but someone could easily replace Chuba Hubbard. So I like the idea of the Panthers and Benson going there with that early second draft capital as well. Jonathan Brooks, coming off the ACL, to me, any team where you might get a redshirt year from him, to say, like a year where you don't expect a whole lot his first year. And that's always tough in dynasty rookie drafts. Like, where do you spend? Do you spend an early second round pick on a guy like that who's going to potentially sit for a year? I'm going to throw out a couple teams there where there's an established running back, but maybe they have kind of one more year. The Cardinals with James Conner, a good redshirt year for Jonathan Brooks. James Conner moves on after 2024, and Brooks takes over on a really good offense. The Ravens is another one of those where, again, you have Derrick Henry for a year. Derrick Henry moves on maybe, and then Jonathan Brooks takes over on a really good offense. So those two kind of come to mind as potential spots for him where he can sit for a year. So any other spots for Jonathan Brooks?
Yeah, but this team has an instant need right now, and that's the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. Yep.
So do they need him? Absolutely, they need him. And this guy by far was the top running back in college until he got hurt. So,
that'd be an awesome spot.
Yeah, the Vikings could use some running back help.
Yep.
And he would kind of fit maybe later in the season or something. But there is
Aaron Jones is there, but he's getting older.
Yeah, and I think I think it's proven everybody kind of needs a couple of running backs and stuff like that. So, and yeah, the Ravens was a good landing spot behind the Chargers. I know the Chargers have Gus Edwards, and but Gus isn't going to be. He's going to carry the ball quite a bit, but you need somebody else. And
yeah, he's about to be. Though he just turned 29 today.
Gus.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all good. I think the Giants are a sneaky spot too. You have Devin Singletary, who, if Brooks isn't ready to begin the year, Singletary's fine. And then they kind of, maybe in October, they're a 1A, 1B situation. And then who knows, Singletary's there for a year and then Brooks takes over. So there's a lot of interesting spots for him. But Dallas, if he goes to Dallas in the second round, that means they probably think he's going to be ready. I would assume if they're spending a second round pick on him that he's going to contribute this year.
Yeah.
Is he a first round dynasty rookie pick at that point if he goes to Dallas, 56th overall?
I'd say late. First round. Yeah, I would consider it, to tell you the truth, And
yeah, I think he is at that point. Someone will take him in your drafts, I guess. And then Blake Corum, you can kind of plug him into any of the teams we just said, like all those running back needy teams.
Chargers.
Yeah, Chargers seem like the spot. Now the question is, are they going to spend the 37th overall pick on Corum? No. So is he going to be there 69th overall in the third round potentially? He's an interesting one for sure. Like, I don't know will he be the workhorse every down running back? I don't know. I don't know, but it's possible. So, any other teams besides the Chargers, or is that just what everyone's kind of penciling in?
Maybe, yeah, for obvious reasons, but how about the Rams?
Yeah,
and the Panthers, these are all teams who I think we've all kind of think that they need some more help. The Giants, I think Devin Singletary, nice running back. Is he going to handle a load like Saquon Barkley? And it's like, no, that Saquon Barkley used to. So there has to be somebody else there.
Browns are not, Nick Chubb status up in the air with that major knee injury. He's 28,
He just took a pay cut too, so.
Yeah, he'll probably be there, but I mean, they use 2 running backs all the time, so.
Yeah, they do. They do, and they use them pretty well, so.
Yeah. Yep. So, but any running back needing team, I think Corum, there's value in a guy that can carry a workload, and Corum has kind of proven he can do that. So, the wide receivers, we're going to talk about 6. I think the over/under for first rounders is 6.5. So, I think all these guys have a chance at being first round picks. We're not going to talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. because I think he's probably going to go to either Cardinals or Chargers, I'd say. But Malik Neighbors, what team in the top 10 for fantasy purposes, what's your favorite team that you would love to see him go to?
Yeah, I got a brain lock here a little bit.
I like the Chargers.
Yeah, I don't want him to go to the Chargers because I guess I can understand why, but I think the Chargers would have other needs and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think it's a little overblown. Like, people are saying the Chargers are just basically going to run the ball 60 times a game and they're not going to pass it all. Like, I think it's a little overblown.
True. Yeah.
They've, has Harbaugh in the NFL had a quarterback as good as Herbert in terms of passing the ball? No, he's had Alex Smith and Kaepernick. So I think they can run the ball or pass the ball more. They desperately need a receiver. I think it's a little bit easier to find elite tackles later on in the draft than it is to find elite receivers. I don't know if that's true or not, but both these positions, I think both these positions are very deep, tackle and receiver. And you look at their team, what's a bigger hole? I think it's receiver. They actually have an above average offensive line if healthy, in my opinion. So not saying they're not going to improve it, but I do think that the receiving core is a little bit of a hole. So I wouldn't mind Neighbors to the Chargers for fantasy too.
Yeah, I think Neighbors would I think he would fit with the Giants there at number 6. And, that's where the Giants haven't had a damn wide receiver since Odell Beckham, was in his heyday. They've had a bunch of good guys. So, if Neighbors is this true star and, let's give Daniel Jones some weapons and things like that if he can use them. And so I think that would be a good spot.
Yeah, no, that is a really good spot. Assuming Odunze goes in the top 10, I still think the Bears are in play here. I know they have Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. Keenan Allen is up there in age. DJ Moore is getting to the point where Keenan Allen's going to be 32 this month. So that's up there in age. He might be just a 1-year kind of replacement. DJ Moore, he'll turn 27 tomorrow, actually. A lot of April birthdays. So, he's getting to that point where you're going to start talking about age, still a few years away. I don't think they're out of play here. You get a third receiver. Is it great for 2024 fantasy if everyone's healthy? No. But for dynasty purposes, I love it. You pair him with Caleb Williams, basically 2025 and beyond, and maybe he takes over as the number 1 guy in 2025. So I still think the Bears are in play at 9 for Odunze.
Yeah, I think so. I always think, like, come on, you just drafted, this number one quarterback. You know, get work on your offensive line. That's what I would think. And I know their offensive line got better a little bit, but geez, if you need to fill, the other tackle spot. I know they drafted a tackle last year who did pretty good, but I don't, it's I would hope the Bears would not draft a Dunze, but then that kind of leaves where does he go? Because the next teams, would the Jets take him? I mean, if the Chargers ended up in the Vikings trade and they end up at number 11, would they take a Dunze? Then another pick that they get at 23, would they pick a tackle? So that's an interesting scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Jets could too. Pretty easily. Who they have outside of Garrett Wilson? I know they signed Mike Williams to kind of a one-year deal, but he has to stay healthy. Brian Thomas Jr. I know a lot of people are saying like the Bills, the Chiefs. I think they're going to have to trade up if they're going to want to get him. I think this guy is going top 20. Maybe, almost guaranteed. I'm going to make a prediction here. I'm going to say the Bengals trade T. Higgins. They draft his replacement in Brian Thomas. They don't have to pay him for another 5 years, so they have a cheap rookie. He goes to the Bengals, and he basically he takes over the T. Higgins role and plays alongside Jamar Chase, and I think that's a good spot. I think he's perfect as like the 1B next to an elite receiver, and they're going to throw the ball a lot. You have Joe Burrow. We've seen both Higgins and Chase both be top 12, 14 receivers together in the same season. So that's my prediction. Bengals trade T. Higgins. They take Brian Thomas 18th overall.
Yeah, I was thinking Dallas Cowboys.
24th?
Yeah, getting them, because I think they got rid of Michael Gallup, and I know they got Brandon Cooks and stuff like that, but, CeeDee Lamb, there's going to be some, they're going to talk about his contract quite a bit. So, they need to fill that second wide receiver spot. So,
yeah, no, that's perfect. Like, I think he's perfect alongside a stud elite receiver. I think Jacksonville 17 is a sneaky spot for him too. We haven't really heard a lot about. They have Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram. They have a solid receiving core if you take into account the tight ends and running backs. They don't have an alpha. I like Christian Kirk, but he's probably suited better as like the wide receiver 2 for a team. Brian Thomas, I don't mind going to Jacksonville, where he doesn't necessarily have to be like the only guy, because you have Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk and Zay Jones and ETN, but he can, do his thing and kind of be that field stretcher plus for Trevor Lawrence. So I think that's kind of an interesting spot for him there too. Xavier Worthy. Now we're getting to guys that, they could go first round, they could go second round. We don't really know yet. Xavier Worthy, any thoughts on him? Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll pass the buck.
Yeah, I like Carolina again at 33 overall. I like this more for Bryce Young than anything. I like Xavier Worthy a lot. I think he's a really good player. I don't think he's just a deep threat guy. But if you just think about the Panthers, you have Thielen, Deontay Johnson, Mingo, 3 receivers that are all kind of like over the middle, short, mid-range, midfield guys. They're not going to take the top off type of players, possession receivers. You add Xavier Worthy in there, and I think that just does a whole lot for this offense. He has the speed to be the deep guy. I think he is more than that too. So he could be just their best receiver from day one. I wouldn't be surprised. But he just adds an element to that team that they don't have, which is speed. So really love that for Bryce Young. So Xavier Worthy, first pick of the second round to the Panthers. any places for you that you'd like to see him go?
Yeah, I was thinking Buffalo now
Yeah.
is in the market for a wide receiver.
Mhm.
And but I had a guy we're going to talk about here soon, kind of earmarked for Buffalo, but I could see anywhere, I could see Brian Thomas Jr., Worthy, the Adnine Mitchell, and some of these guys all ended up in the Buffalo Bills.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
because
all those guys.
yeah, they kind of played their hand and they traded Diggs. So if they're gonna go with their guys, Shakur and Samuel, and if that's their guys, then good on them. But
They need someone, right? They need to take
yeah,
someone.
they do.
Again, for any of these guys, Chargers are always in play if they don't take someone at fifth overall. So I don't mind that either. So Adonai Mitchell, AD Mitchell, whatever you want to call him, from Texas, where these are teammates. Yeah, I just penciled in the Bills. I don't think they need to take someone. Is it going to be Worthy? I think a guy like AD Mitchell kind of fits what they want to do a little bit more. So that's kind of who I said for the Bills. Is that who you were thinking for the Bills, or were you thinking someone else?
No, I was thinking for the Bills. I also think those three guys that I talked about. I think Kansas City now. With this, I know the Rashee Rice, I think, problem. I think that's, we're not talking about this guy getting suspended for a whole year. He might get a couple games or something like that. But Kansas City kind of needs another receiver. So
They do. Yeah. Any of these guys we're talking about. Again, I don't see Brian Thomas Jr. falling that far. I just don't.
right, right.
But any of these, there's a lot of the Steelers at 20. We haven't even talked about them. They could easily take a receiver. They have Pickens. You know who their wide receiver 2 is right now on the depth chart?
Yeah, I remember the name, but I can't.
Well, there's one acquisition they had, Van Jefferson, and then
okay.
Calvin Austin, a guy who's been on the team for a couple years, hasn't done anything. Like, those are their wide receiver 2 and 3 right now. Like, they desperately need a weapon. So I could see them taking any of these guys. AD Mitchell, Worthy, Thomas. So yeah. And honestly, like, I know you're a Lions fan, so you can fill in. I don't think necessarily, it depends on what the Lions feel about Jameson Williams, but I don't think they're necessarily out on, I know they need defense, which is probably the direction they go in the first round. I don't think they're necessarily out on, if a receiver they really like falls to them at 29. Because, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have Laporta, and then what? Like, Jameson Williams, we still don't know. And then what is it, like Khalif Raymond or something is after that, who's a nice, wide receiver 4 for a team, but he's currently listed as 3.
You forgot Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
no,
those are nice, like, fourth receivers. They have their role type of players, but no, I'm just, a team that has a good offense. I don't think they're out. So Ladd McConkey's the last receiver. Any place in particular you really like him going? Is the Chiefs also?
No, I think because I said the Bills earlier, but I think McConkey would be, and he's probably a slot receiver in the NFL. He's pretty fast. I think he ran in the 4.3s.
Yeah, 4.3.
And just remember when Buffalo had Cole Beasley.
Yep.
Put
up almost 1,000 yards, I think.
Yeah, and my God, Josh Allen was throwing to him a lot. And so that's where I think McConkey. Now is he a first round draft pick? I don't know, but the Bills on the back end of the first round. they could definitely. I think Lad McConkey would fit nicely.
Yeah, if they want a receiver, they need to take one there because they pick at the end of the second, so you could still find someone, but maybe not as clean as a prospect. Yeah, Cole Beasley that year with the Bills, you're talking about 82 catches, 967 yards, 4 touchdowns. So, and that was good for like a wide receiver, top 24 receiver. Yeah, I want McConkey because I really like him. I just think he's probably at best the second target for a team. I don't think he's an alpha receiver, maybe even a third target. And if that's the case, he kind of needs to go to a team that's going to throw the ball like high volume. If he goes to like the Patriots with Jaden Daniels, I'm not super excited about McConkey in terms of like fantasy purposes. Not that I'm completely out on him. I'm just less excited. Chiefs, Bills, those two teams easily. I would like to see that. Even the Chargers, 37th overall. The Falcons, I don't think are necessarily. I think the Falcons are going to go heavy defense, but their wide receiver 2 right now is Darnell Mooney. Now I know they have Pitts as kind of the second target, but their wide receiver 2 is Darnell Mooney. So maybe you bring someone else in. Saints could use someone. A lot of teams in that early to mid second round that could use a Lad McConkey. So excited to see where he goes. Tight ends, there's really only 2 to talk about. Brock Bowers. I know everyone's talking about the Chargers and stuff like that. I'm just going to throw out a couple teams there. I don't think the Jets at 10, I think would take him if he's sitting there, and he becomes, instead of taking a receiver, he becomes kind of their number 2 option. And then the Bengals, the Saints and the Bengals, those 3 teams, outside of like the top 10 picks or right at the top 10, top 15 guys, all 3 of those spots I would kind of like to see, Bowers go to. I'd like that. Who are you thinking?
Yeah, I have one more to add to that, and that would be the Colts.
Yeah, that's another team for sure.
Yeah, at Colts at 15.
Yeah, I'd love that too. Richardson, you got Pittman, but yeah, I think that's a really good call too. And then Jatavian Sanders, kind of the tight end too. Although I did see a mock where he was like, he didn't go into like the 5th round, which is a little bit shocking because I've seen him mostly as a 2nd round pick, 3rd round pick. I've even seen him as in the 1st round. I'm going to say Miami for Jatavian Sanders. I know it's Tyreek Hill and Waddle, the Tyreek Hill and Waddle show. I think they do want a consistent 3rd option. I think that's, you've seen it with the Packers, with Devontae Adams, the best receiver in football, Aaron Rodgers, MVP. You get to the playoffs, teams know how to shut that stuff down, when you only have one option. I feel like that's kind of happening with Miami. They've had 2 playoff games under this current system. I know one of them, Tua, was hurt. You're starting Skylar Thompson, but, the other game was minus 50 degrees or whatever. But it just feels like you get to the playoffs, a good team's potentially going to shut down Tyreek Hill. You get a 3rd option in there with Jatavian Sanders. I think that's a really good, nice fantasy spot for him. So where are you thinking with Jatavian
I was thinking later on, of course, we've mentioned these teams already. That was the Colts and the Bengals, he would, whatever teams think of him and where he should fit. I'm not sure if he's depends on where you're at in the 2nd round, 2nd or 3rd rounder, I guess. And I'll even throw the Chargers, but the Chargers have a couple of tight ends. They got Will Disley, and they got there was another guy they signed,
Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if a rookie tight end fits, but
yeah, no, it's I agree there. I mean, the Bucks at 57th, maybe in the 2nd round. That's a potential spot there. 49ers. George Kittle is getting kind of older. Maybe if they really like him as as just a weapon, George Kittle's going to be 31 this year. So I know tight ends can play kind of later. But what about the Chiefs? What if they sitting there in the 3rd round and the Chiefs take them and they say, all right, you're going to replace Kelsey when he retires after 2024. Do you think dynasty drafters are going to overdraft him? Probably. So
Yeah, probably for the future. I mean, yeah, when we do dynasty, we pick guys. We want some instantaneous results,
yeah,
and it doesn't have to, it doesn't happen that way. So holding on to a guy for if you start seeing something in, his rookie year in the last half of it, or that. So I'm expecting, there's a guy I drafted last year was Chase Brown, the running back for the Bengals, and he was showing up the latter part of the year and even into the playoffs. So, and he was a high volume guy in college with Illinois. Is he gonna? But I think they got Zach Moss, didn't they? So I don't know, but I'm hoping
Bengals, yeah.
Yeah. So, what am I trying to say is, you gotta kind of be patient sometimes. So
you do for sure. So there you have it. We're ready for the draft. We're gonna be more rookie draft, dynasty rookie mock drafts before the NFL draft, after the NFL draft. Maybe we'll do some instant reactions to the NFL draft, the first couple rounds at least. So we'll be back then. And as always, your prediction, Dad, for wide receivers, would you take the over or the under, the 6.5? So we already know Marvin Harrison, Neighbors, Dunze, pretty sure Brian Thomas. So there's 4 I think we can kind of lock in the first round. So do you think 3 more receivers go or 2 more or 1
I'm going to go
0?
under.
Under. You're saying 6?
I'm going to say 6. Without cheating and looking at something. I'm just going off top of my head what I think. So
it's a good number because again we're talking about 3 guys that you hear a lot going in the first round is McConkey, Adonai Mitchell, and Xavier Worthy. If all 3 of them go, that makes 7. So it's a good line for sure. And there's even guys like Xavier Legette and Troy Franklin who could sneak in there maybe. So yeah, I'd go under as well. I'll go 6, but we'll see. We'll see if that would have cashed. As always, like and subscribe. We will catch you all next time.